Yeah, I think that about sums it up. I think that pretty much says everything that there needs to be said. What? Hey there folks, my name is Daizoren and welcome to a vloggy type video where I'm going to discuss my thoughts on, like everybody else, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Now, I am a longtime Superman fan and I love Batman. I'm a comic book fan in general. I really don't have much of like a loyalty to any side. I mean, my favorite superhero is Superman, yes, but my second favorite superhero is Spawn from Image Comics, you know, and then we get into, after that we get like Spider-Man and Iron Man. I really like those characters from Marvel. So I'm all over the spectrum when it comes to characters in comic books and my thoughts on them and which ones I like the most. So I like comics and I just want good comic book movies, and you know, I will say starting from right here, Marvel has done a wonderful job with all of their source material for the most part. There have been a couple flops here and there, but for the most part they've done a great job with their franchise and building up the Marvel universe, and I want the same for DC because I think they can do it, and I think that there can be amazing DC movies. And Man of Steel, for example, I really liked Man of Steel. I thought it was a great kind of restart to get Superman to be kind of relevant and interesting again. And I was excited to see this movie. I really was. I was excited to see it. The first couple trailers, or I shouldn't say that. Let me start this. Way back when they first announced it, they said this was going to be the Man of Steel sequel, and then they quoted Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, who has a clear bias against Superman. He's talked about how much he hates Superman. So I was like, wait, your Man of Steel sequel is a story written by a guy who doesn't like Superman? What? And then after that, you know, they announced Ben Affleck as Batman, to which I was like, I'm going to hold off judgment, because Heath Ledger, people freaked out about him being the Joker, and obviously they were all proven wrong. So I was like, I'm going to hold judgment on the whole Ben Affleck thing. That's fine, whatever. Trailers come out, and it's like, okay, it looks okay. And then Wonder Woman comes in, and it's like, wait a minute, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, how many people are they going to have this in this movie? And then more trailers come out, and I'm actually getting really excited for them. Like, this looks great. This looks amazing. And then the trailer with Doomsday came out, and I just... Here are my hopes and dreams and expectations for Batman vs. Superman, okay? You won't be able to see this because it'll be off screen, but you can hear it. That's what happened when I saw that Doomsday trailer. And I was so upset. And then another trailer came out after that, and that trailer looked great. So I was kind of like, okay, I have mixed emotions about this. I'm skeptical about it. And I went in kind of trying to be as neutral as possible. So that's kind of my coming into what I'm about to talk about as far as my review. That was my reaction up to seeing this film. So I wanted to kind of give that backstory. I'm going to probably be talking spoilers. I'm going to try to talk as little about them as possible, but I have no doubt that they are going to come up. So you have been warned, spoilers will probably be talked about. First thing that I want to talk about are the characters and the actors who play them. Henry Cavill obviously is reprising his role as Superman, and I think he's a great Superman. I don't have any issue with him playing Superman. I think he does a great job. Ben Affleck as Batman turned out to be really good. He did a good job playing as Batman, and I think everybody seems to agree. He was a good Batman. He was intimidating. He was scary. He was exactly what you would expect from the Batman. The voice changer was really cool. I liked that a lot. I thought it was really just awesome. And my only issue, I think, is the fact that we had to watch even just a snippet of Batman's origin once again. How many times are we going to see Batman's origin? It's like Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, those three especially. We know their origin. We know it by now. We don't need to see it 10 more thousand times. We really don't. If you're going to see Batman versus Superman, your likelihood that you know who Batman is and know his story and you know Superman's story and you know where he comes from, you probably know. So I hate that it has to have more origin. It's just like, just jump us in. Just jump us in. That's fine. Whatever. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was fine. She didn't have a whole lot of screen time. I wish she had had more, but from what I saw, I thought she did a great job. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. My cousin and I went and saw this together, and we kind of both had the same thought. Like, his interpretation of Lex Luthor is very much like a kind of like Riddler type character, actually, and not much a Lex Luthor. And this is a spoiler, and I should say, it's not Lex Luthor, it's Alexander Luthor, but it's Lex Luthor anyway. But I thought that the way he played Lex Luthor wasn't bad. It was just kind of his acting that he does in all of his films, which isn't, again, it's not a bad thing. It's not the Lex we're really used to seeing, which to some people might be refreshing. I didn't really hate it, but I didn't think it was what Lex should be like. In fact, like I said, he should have been the Riddler, actually. I think he would have been a great Riddler. And maybe they'll do something where they twist the storyline and Lex turns into Riddler. I don't know, but I highly doubt that. But anyway, it was very Riddler-esque, and I thought it was very strange that we were getting him as Lex instead of the Riddler. After all of those, the rest of the cast, for the most part, it's just reprising roles and stuff like that. Jeremy Irons is Alfred. He's like the only form of comedic relief in the entire film, and his comedic relief is very dark. This movie's very serious. There's like no comedy at all. There are no jokes. The only joke that really comes up is the one that's in the trailer, which is "Is she with you? I thought she was with you." And that's really the only one. And in the context of the movie, it's not even a joke. It's just a joke in the trailer, the context of the trailer. So I thought that was interesting. It was a very, very serious film. Also, it's a much darker film than Man of Steel, which I think is to try to appeal more to the Batman side of things, which I guess I can understand, because the Batman in this is very cynical. He's very much snapped, and he's just fed up with everything, and I didn't have an issue with that, really. I know a lot of people were upset because he breaks his moral code of not killing people, and he clearly kills people. He, like, the action scene where he fights a bunch of dudes, he's literally just killing them, and I was okay with that. I thought that there was nothing really wrong with that. I like the idea that he at this point, it looks like he had lost Robin. He is snapped, and he is just fed up with doing it. It actually, there was a reference that almost looked like it was from The Killing Joke, which is another story where, if I remember correctly, Batman kills Joker. So again, spoilers. I know it's spoilers for something outside of the movie, but still, I warned about spoilers in general. But anyway, so I was okay with the Batman being more intense and much more exaggerated form of what we're used to, and I thought that was perfectly fine. I think that was played very well. Now, aside from the characters, this movie isn't bad. It is not good. Probably the biggest complaint I have about this movie is that they tried to do too much in too little of time. And I feel like that's a very common complaint that we've been hearing from a lot of people. I think that overall, this movie, the stories in this movie, could have been divided up into maybe 3 separate films that all could have held ground on their own. And that's kind of one of my biggest beef about this, because it seems like DC really just wants to catch up with Marvel, and they don't want to take the time to establish their characters, to evolve their characters, and to make the audience connect with their characters. in this movie, we have three main storylines. We have small storylines outside of them, but we have three main storylines. The first being the moral responsibility of Superman and whether or not his powers are really being used for good, or if even in his best attempts still end up being used in some way for evil. And I think this could have been a great film on its own. You include Lex, and he's kind of the catalyst for this overturning view of Superman, whether or not he's really good, or maybe he's just an evil god that we as humans should be afraid of and should be trying to fight. And I think that in and of itself could have been its own film, and we could have built Lex's hatred for Superman, and we could have built Superman's morality and his views on humanity and everything that we stand for, and whether or not he really is good. And I think that in and of itself could have been its own film. Second film we could have had would have been, well, actually, aside from that, having a Batman movie starring Ben Affleck to establish him as Batman. No origin needed, just establish him as Batman. Whoever you want to have as the bad guy, doesn't matter. Let's do somebody that we haven't done before. I don't know, Mad Hatter. Anybody. But get him established as a Batman. So that they did a pretty good job portraying why he is the way he is, but I would love to learn more. As somebody who took a lot of film-related classes, including script analysis, one of the most key things that any script writer should know is character development. And there was very little of that in this film. In fact, probably the most was Batman. And again, we know Batman, and we know his origin, and that was what they probably established the most, was just his origin, more than anything else. So I want to see, I would have liked to have seen a separate Batman movie to get us into the world of grizzled, old, cynical, ready to kill Batman, rather than the Batman we do know. Origin story aside, because we know the Batman after the origin story. We don't know the old, cynical, he's lost people type of Batman at this point. That's not a story we see very often. So that's fine to evolve on, not the origin. So you have a separate Batman movie. Then you have your Batman vs. Superman movie, and you use the previous story of Superman's morality and Lex trying to turn that as a catalyst for the second movie, which is Batman vs. Superman. Because the way that they established this was so quick and so muddy and just so, how do I want to say it? It was just a mess, basically. That Batman, who's known for being the greatest human detective, couldn't seem to listen, couldn't seem to figure out what was going on. To a point I can understand that maybe he's just at a point in his life where the emotion is too much for logic to get in the way. But at the same time, I feel like Batman would have done better than that. So to see this Batman just kind of disregard any sense, any common sense, any logical sense, just kind of took me out of the experience. So if you have a second movie that gives you an entire movie to establish why Batman really wants to take down Superman, and people can understand it, it makes sense, there's logic to it, cool. Not the way that they handled it in this movie. The third movie would have been Doomsday, and that would probably actually be long after what they have in store, which is like Justice League. You get Justice League established, you get everything going, you get your characters going, and then you have Doomsday, because Doomsday in the comics was a force that the entire Justice League, all heroes on Earth, were fighting. And then Superman was the last resort type thing. And so it was kind of just a big disaster. There were really good ideas executed in the completely wrong way. Also, the way that they handled Doomsday, that he was made from Zod's body and that he was evolving and like the spikes were coming at him and everything, and just the way that they just kind of threw Doomsday in and used Lex as the catalyst for that was just bad. I honestly feel like Doomsday's normal origin is better than that, and that's kind of a shame because Doomsday's real origin isn't that interesting either. So I just feel like the way they handled Doomsday, I feel like Doomsday was thrown in as kind of like a, well, what else did we do? Doomsday, sure, let's do it. And I think that they, as somebody, I don't remember who it was, I think it was Angry Joe had said, they blew their load all in one movie, and it was not a good load. So, okay. So that's my thoughts on like this kind of 3-act movie that could have been 3 movies instead, all with acts inside of those acts. There's so many things I want to talk about this with movie. So the other things I want to talk about are, again, going back to the Doomsday thing, the whole battle was just bad, and the whole ending just didn't make sense to me, because you have this scene where Lois grabs this spear, throws it in the water, and then literally within the next minute or two goes, oh yeah, I'm gonna need that, without anybody saying to her that they need it. She jumps back in, grabs it. Okay, I'm gonna try and just, okay, whatever. I'll let that pass. Then Superman decides, what can I do? I'm going to grab this spear that's made of kryptonite, and I'm not going to toss it to Wonder Woman. I'm not going to toss it to Batman. Nope. I'm going to somehow continue to fly while holding this thing and stab Doomsday myself. Because that makes sense. It was a rushed, poor execution of the Death of Superman storyline. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I may have misheard this name, but I am fairly certain, like 80% certain, that I heard Hank Henshaw be mentioned in the movie. And if you are a Superman fan, you know that Hank Henshaw is Cyborg Superman in the Reign of Superman storyline. That worries me, because I don't want them to be setting up Reign of Superman, because, I mean, there are some good characters that came out of that. Eradicator was kind of cool. I like him. Cyborg Superman's just kind of dumb. Superboy, Man of Steel, like, it wasn't a great storyline, and it seems like they're trying to maybe establish that, because, again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I could swear I heard Hank Henshaw in there. And then, what else was I going to say? They're also looking to maybe establish Darkseid, which is they're coming, or he's coming, he already knows, which is what Lex was yelling at Batman about, which seems to be alluding to a Darkseid storyline, which might be in Justice League 1 or 2. The other thing that I noticed was when Flash goes, or there's that dream sequence with Flash saying, you were right about him, it's Lois is the key. That seems to hint at a possible Injustice storyline where Superman is a bad guy, which I don't want to happen. I think that's a cool storyline, like Batman being this kind of power-hungry god type character that everyone, that's evil and ruling the world. I like that storyline, but I feel like there's so much hate for Superman that would just contribute to that hatred. And so I wouldn't want that right now. I think it would be a cool storyline to kind of toy with later on, but it does seem like they might be establishing that as well. So it's like they're trying to establish Injustice, Darkseid, Reign of Superman, Death of Superman, Justice League, and then they had these snippets of Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman within like a 5-minute time frame. The shoehorning in of these characters just felt, again, rushed, and it felt like a poor choice. I think that it could have been executed way better. It's a shame, because I really wanted to like this movie, and I think there are good parts to it. Don't get me wrong. I think if you want to go see this movie, to go see it. I don't know why you're still watching a spoiler talk about it, but if you want to go see it and you haven't yet, I do think it's worth seeing. I just warn people that, when you go to see it, be prepared for not the greatest film. There are good ideas, but they're not necessarily executed properly. So I wish that more had been done with this movie in terms of developing characters. I honestly, from the get-go, was worried about having too many characters in it, and it seems like I was right in worrying about that. Again, I think the Batman and Superman storyline, like if it had just been those two, I don't think it would have been a problem. I think the movie probably would have been much better. But the fact that they tried to get so many characters established, so much stuff in one film, really detracted from it being an enjoyable experience. I did like the action. The action was great. The fight between Batman and Superman, while short, is very good, well choreographed. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens in it, but it's cut short because of the Doomsday fight, and it's really just a shame. It's not cut off by the Doomsday fight, but the Doomsday fight, I think, was what they were trying to lead up to, and they just wanted to use the Batman versus Superman title to try and get people to lured in to see it. Honestly, I think the only reason that this movie is doing very well is because Batman's in the title. Superman's not very popular. I can admit that. He's not a popular character. People don't like Superman. You put Batman on your title, and people are going to go see it. People love Batman because they can relate to a millionaire. I'll never understand that one. I'm sorry. I like Batman. I think he's a great character. But I'll just never understand when people say, oh, we can relate to him because he's human. It's like, yeah, but he's a millionaire. He has like all this money. He goes around fighting crime at night because of, losing his children or losing his parents as a kid. It's like, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you lost your kid or lost your parents when you were a kid, but, and I didn't know you were a millionaire yet. Whereas Superman is an immigrant trying to find the place where he fits in America, which is essentially most American story. We all are immigrants in some way, shape, or form. Almost all of us came from another country. We're immigrants here and had to find our place in America. And even now, so many people, as they grow up, have to find their place in the world and where they fit in. And that's what storyline that I've always kind of appreciated with Superman. So it's an opinion thing, of course. And, if you like Batman, great. Batman's awesome. If you like Superman, glad to have you on board. If you don't like Superman, that's fine. I just always ask people that, do you only like Superman or not like Superman because of his superpowers? Because if you're just reading comics for superpowers, you're not reading them for the right reason. So that's kind of my spiel about Superman and everything. I love comic books. I love Batman. I love Superman. But Superman is definitely my favorite superhero. I will say that I probably am biased because Superman is the reason I even got into comics in the first place. Superman is the first comic book character I drew when I wanted to be a comic book artist. So he kind of was the vector or the way that I got into comics in the first place. So I kind of always look at him as kind of like, yeah, it was because of Superman that I, got into comics in the first place. So that could be bias on my part, and I can admit that. But anyway, I've been rambling for probably far too long at this point. So anyway, my final thoughts on this movie again are that it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it had good ideas that were executed poorly. There are good parts to this movie that you will enjoy, there are parts that you probably won't enjoy either. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It is a movie that I think sets a very bad precedent for what we might see from the future of DC movies. And I really hope that's not the case because I want to see DC do better than what this movie was. Man of Steel, I thought, was going to be a great, fresh, strong start to get back into a DC universe, anthology or universe. And then DC decided they weren't going to do like a single movie for Batman or a single movie. Like they are doing single movies for Wonder Woman. They are establishing their characters, but for some reason they're deciding to do it after they've already revealed them rather than just get them established first. And I don't want to say to copy Marvel, but Marvel's done it the right way. They know what they're doing and they've made so much money on doing it the right way. So yeah, I wish that they would kind of take a hint from Marvel and be like, let's get our characters established, let's evolve them, let's have the audience connect with who's playing these characters, and as well as the characters themselves. Then we get them together, and that makes the stakes that much higher for the audience, because we're growing with these characters, we're watching them over countless movies, we want them to succeed, so we're going to be more invested in the story. So I wish that they had gone that route. They don't seem to be doing that, and that's a shame, because I think it could have been a lot better. But at the end of the day, there were parts that I liked, and there were parts that I absolutely despised. And the very last second or two of the movie just kind of was more of a slap in the face. So it was a shame. But if you do want to see the movie, I do recommend that people see it. If your friends ask you if they should see it, I think it's worth seeing, just for the kind of novelty factor of Batman versus Superman. But again, just kind of warn them, be like, it's not great, it's not bad. There are parts you'll like, there are parts you probably won't. And at the end of the day, that's about what it is. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman versus Superman. What did you guys think of the movie? Did you guys go and see it? If you did, your thoughts on what I just talked about. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I always love talking to you guys in the comments. You guys are always really good about, keeping things civil while also having a very good discussion about things. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman versus Superman. Hopefully DC will learn from this. Hopefully they'll see that people want something more than this, something that's not quite so messy, and hopefully the next movie we get will be much better. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. You guys will make this channel happen, and I thank you very much for that. And I will catch you in the next video.